June 7th, 1992. In Springfield, Missouri, a quiet house on East Delmar Street became the center of one of America's most disturbing missing persons cases. 3 women vanished from that house. There was no clear sign of a struggle, no ransom note, no confirmed witness who could explain what happened. And more than 30 years later, nobody has been able to prove where they went. The women were Sherrill Levitt, her daughter Suzie Streeter, known as Suzie, and Suzie's close friend Stacy McCall. Sherrill was 47 years old. Suzie was 19. Stacy was 18. The night before they disappeared should have been a celebration. Suzie and Stacy had just graduated from high school. They spent the evening with friends, attending graduation parties and making plans for the next day. At first, they were expected to spend the night at a friend's house, but that house was crowded with relatives. So Suzie and Stacy decided to go to Suzie's home instead. Sherrill was already there. The 2 young women arrived sometime in the early morning hours. According to the official FBI timeline, the 3 women disappeared between 2:15 and 7:30 in the morning. That narrow window is where the known story ends, and the mystery begins. The next morning, friends expected Suzie and Stacy to join them for a trip to a water park, but the girls never arrived. Phone calls went unanswered. Concern slowly turned into fear. Eventually, friends went to the house on Delmar Street. At first glance, the house did not look like the scene of a major crime. The cars were still outside. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the women's personal belongings were still there: purses, keys, money, clothing. Nothing suggested that the women had packed bags or left willingly for a long trip. Sherrill's dog was still inside the house. The beds appeared to have been used. There were signs that the women had returned home and settled in for the night. But the 3 women themselves were gone. One detail stood out. The glass cover of the porch light was broken. The bulb itself was reportedly still intact. Someone later swept up the broken glass, not realizing it could have been important evidence. That small act may have destroyed one of the few physical clues in the case. There were no obvious signs of forced entry, no blood, no clear struggle, no immediate explanation. It was as if 3 people had stepped out of ordinary life and vanished from the world. As more people entered the house that day, the potential crime scene became harder to understand. Friends and family were worried. They looked through rooms, they answered phones, they searched for anything that might explain where the women had gone. But every new detail only made the case more confusing. The women had not taken their vehicles. They had not taken their purses. They had not taken their keys. Stacy's mother later found her daughter's belongings inside the house. This was not consistent with a normal departure. It was not consistent with 3 women deciding to leave suddenly for the day. Something had interrupted them. But what? One of the strangest details involved the telephone. During the morning, a disturbing call reportedly came into the house while friends were there. The caller was male. The content of the call was obscene and unsettling. The person who answered hung up. Then another similar call came in. At the time, the calls seemed strange. Later, they became part of the larger mystery. Were they connected to the disappearance? Or were they unrelated prank calls that happened at the worst possible moment? Police could not prove the answer. There was also a message on the answering machine. According to accounts connected to the case, the message may have been important, but it was accidentally erased before investigators could properly examine it. If that message contained a clue, it was lost forever. The house itself offered no clear story. There was the broken porch light. There were belongings left behind. There was the open or unlocked door. There was the dog still inside. But there was no confirmed evidence showing exactly how the women left the house. Investigators considered different possibilities. Maybe someone had knocked on the door. Maybe the broken porch light had been used to draw someone outside. Maybe the women knew the person who came to the house. Maybe they were forced to leave without time to resist or collect anything. But each possibility had the same problem. There was no proof. Police searched. Family members pleaded for answers. The community watched as the case became larger than anyone first expected. 3 women had disappeared from a normal house in the middle of a normal city, and the scene left behind was almost impossibly quiet. No chaos, no clear violence, no obvious trail, just 3 missing people, and a house full of unanswered questions. Over the years, many theories have been suggested. Some are possible, some are weak, some are based mostly on rumours, but none has solved the case. The first major theory is that the women were taken by someone they knew. This would explain why there were no clear signs of forced entry. If Sherrill, Suzie, or Stacy recognized the person at the door, they may have opened it willingly. The situation could have changed quickly after that. But if the person was known to them, investigators still had to answer the most important question.
Who was it? No confirmed suspect has ever been publicly proven responsible. Another theory is that the broken porch light was part of a trap. Someone may have broken the glass outside the house, hoping one of the women would come to the door or step outside. If that happened, the others may have followed. This theory sounds simple, but again, it depends on assumptions. The broken light may have been connected to the disappearance, or it may have been a small unrelated detail that became important only because everything else was missing. A third theory focuses on a stranger. The women may have been targeted by someone who saw an opportunity, a predator, a stalker, a person passing through the area. This would explain why the case has been so difficult to solve. A stranger leaves fewer obvious personal connections. But it also raises another question. How could one person control 3 women without leaving clear evidence behind? Some believe more than one person may have been involved. There were also theories involving people from Suzie's past, local criminals, and various men who later attracted police attention. Some of these names appeared in media discussions over the years, but speculation is not evidence. Without physical proof, a confession, or a reliable witness, these theories remain unconfirmed. One of the most frustrating parts of the case is how quickly the scene became contaminated. Before police could fully protect the house, multiple people had already gone inside. They were not trying to damage the investigation. They were frightened people looking for missing friends and family. But in a case with so little physical evidence, every movement mattered. A footprint, a fingerprint, a piece of glass, a trace of contact. Any one of those could have mattered. The problem is that by the time investigators understood the seriousness of the case, some possible evidence may already have been disturbed. The house did not look like a crime scene, but it may have been one of the most important crime scenes in Missouri history.
The disappearance of the Springfield Three became a cold case, but it never disappeared from public memory. Flyers were distributed. Tips came in. Investigators followed leads. Families waited for answers. But the women were never found. No confirmed remains. No verified location. No final explanation. The case remained active because the basic facts are so hard to ignore. 3 women were last connected to one house. Their belongings were left behind. Their cars were still there. There were no clear signs of a struggle, and after that morning there was silence. For families, silence is not peace. It is a question that never stops repeating. Where are they? What happened inside or near that house? Why did nobody hear anything that clearly explained the disappearance? Was the person responsible someone they knew? Was it a stranger? Was there one attacker, or more than one? And why has no one, after all these years, come forward with the answer? The Springfield Three case is disturbing because it does not depend on a complicated legend. It is frightening because it began in a place that should have been safe. A home, a familiar street, a night after graduation, a mother and 2 young women returning from an ordinary evening. Then, some time before morning, something happened. Something strong enough to make 3 people vanish without their cars, without their purses, and without a clear trace. More than 3 decades have passed since June 7, 1992. The world has changed. Technology has changed. Cold cases have been solved through DNA, digital records, and renewed attention. But this case still waits for the missing piece. A memory, a confession, a preserved clue, a witness who was too afraid to speak. Until that happens, the house on Delmar Street remains part of a mystery that has never fully released its hold on Springfield. 3 women entered the final hours of a celebration weekend. By morning they were gone, and the question remains, what happened to the Springfield Three?